My name is Megan Rose Parker, and at 28, I've spent years chasing a place in a family that never truly saw me. Growing up in Woodhaven, Kansas, in a picture perfect two-story home, I was always the shadow to my sister's spotlight. She was their golden child, perfect grades, trophies, the daughter they bragged about at every dinner. Meanwhile, my efforts, hours at the piano, debate team, even an art contest win, barely earn a glance. Cute hobby, my mom would say, before praising my sister's latest math award. My parents' favoritism wasn't subtle, it was a constant weight, a reminder I'd never measure up. This is the story of how their rejection, peaking with a brutal demand to disappear on my sister's wedding day, pushed me to break free and find my own worth. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, stick with me. The day before my sister's wedding in Woodhaven, Kansas, I thought I could finally prove my worth. For months, I'd poured my heart into making her day perfect, hoping it might earn me a nod of approval from my parents, Patricia and Michael, who'd always seen my sister as their shining star. I'd spent late nights crafting decorations, negotiating with vendors, and double-checking every detail, from peonies to place cards, all to make Jessica's wedding flawless. But that afternoon, as I carried a box of delicate glass centerpieces into their house, I realized one was missing, left behind in my apartment after sleepless nights of planning. It was a small mistake, but to my parents it was ammunition. I tried to explain, my voice shaky, promising to grab it, but my mother's face twisted with rage. "You've ruined everything again, Megan," she snapped, her words dripping with years of resentment. My father, usually quieter, stood up, his eyes cold. "The greatest gift you could give your sister's wedding is to disappear from our family for good." Those words hit like a punch to the chest, each syllable confirming what I'd always feared. I was the outsider, the daughter who never measured up. In our living room, surrounded by wedding chaos, their rejection felt like a public execution. My sister, Jessica, stood near the stairs with her fiancé, David, her eyes fixed on the floor, offering no defense. Even Susan, my mother's church friend arranging flowers, just glanced at me with pity, her silence louder than words. I wanted to scream, to beg them to see how hard I'd tried, but the betrayal burned too deep. My heart raced, a mix of fury and heartbreak swelling inside me. How could the people who raised me wish me gone just to avoid an embarrassment they'd invented? I didn't plead or fight. Instead, I set the box down, grabbed my keys, and walked out, the door slamming behind me like a final goodbye. That night, alone in my apartment, their words echoed. Disappear from our family. The pain wasn't new, but its sharpness was. I had spent years swallowing their criticism, shrinking to fit their expectations, but this was different. This was a line crossed, a wound too deep to ignore. The next day, I couldn't face the wedding. A friend live streamed it, and I watched on my phone as Jessica glowed in her gown, my parents toasting with smiles, as if my absence was the missing piece to their perfect day. But instead of breaking me, that sight sparked something fierce, a determination to reclaim my life. If they wanted me gone, I'd give them their wish, but on my terms. I started planning, not out of revenge, but to save myself. Their rejection wasn't my defeat, it was my escape. The moment I watched my sister Jessica glow in her wedding dress through a friend's shaky live stream, something inside me shifted. My parents, Patricia and Michael, raised their glasses in a toast, their faces beaming as if my absence from that Woodhaven, Kansas barn was the final piece to their perfect day. The sting of their words, disappear from our family, still burned, but seeing them move on so easily didn't break me. Instead, it lit a fire. I wasn't defeated. I was done. Done trying to earn a place in a family that never wanted me. That night, alone in my apartment, I made a choice, not out of spite, but survival. I would vanish, not just from their lives, but from the version of myself I'd outgrown. If they thought I was the problem, I'd give them what they asked for, but on my terms. I had built a life where I was enough. The decision came fast, but executing it took every ounce of courage I had. I started with my apartment, a cozy 3-block walk from my parent house. where I'd spent years balancing my marketing job with their endless demands. It was my sanctuary, but it also tethered me to their world. I called a real estate agent I'd met at a networking event, a no-nonsense woman who promised a quick cash sale. The offer was $20,000 below market value, but I didn't care. Freedom was worth more than profit. Within a week, I signed the papers, handed over the keys, and watched my old life shrink in the rearview mirror. Next came the shared bank accounts, set up years ago for family expenses, mostly my contributions to cover Patricia's medical bills and household costs. I wasn't about to let them weaponize that money against me. I met with Karen Mitchell, a lawyer I'd connected with months earlier, in her small office downtown. Laying out the years of favoritism and that final, crushing rejection, I told her, I want to disappear, Karen. Not just leave. Start over completely. She leaned back, her eyes steady. You're sure? She asked. I nodded. I'd given them my life. I was done waiting for them to change. Karen outlined the legal steps. As an adult, I could walk away without a trace, but the joint accounts were tricky. She suggested freezing them to protect the funds while ensuring they'd only be used for their intended purpose. The next day, I met Stephen Reynolds, a financial lawyer who reviewed the accounts. You've been the primary contributor, he said, tapping his pen on the desk. Freezing them is smart. It prevents misuse. By the end of the day, the accounts were locked, a trust set up with a third-party administrator to approve legitimate expenses like Patricia's prescriptions. I opened new accounts under my name, using a P.O. box in a nearby town for privacy. Every step felt like cutting a cord, each one making me lighter. Quitting my job was harder. 9 years at the marketing agency, grinding through campaigns and client pitches, had been my stability. But it also chained me to Woodhaven, to the daily drives to my parents' house, to the weight of their expectations. I called my boss, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. Personal reasons, I said, promising a formal resignation email. That 10-minute call ended nearly a decade of work, but it felt right. I was shedding a life that no longer fit. Packing was the toughest part. My apartment was filled with relics of the old Megan. Furniture I'd saved for, books I'd read to escape. Clothes Patricia had criticized as sloppy. I sorted everything into piles. Sell, donate, take. The take pile was small. My laptop, a few outfits, a college journal, and a sapphire necklace from my high school art teacher, the one person who'd seen my potential. The rest, from my couch to my dishes, went to donation or sale. Each item I let go of felt like peeling away their judgment. Jessica texted once, a vague, "Are you okay?" But I didn't reply. Patricia and Michael's silence was louder than any apology. The live stream replayed in my mind, their smiles, Jessica's silence, but it only fueled my resolve. I chose Tidewater, South Carolina, almost on a whim. Something about the idea of a quiet coastal town, far from the Midwest's endless fields, felt like a promise of sunlight after years in the shadows. I didn't have a plan beyond getting there, but that was enough. I loaded my car with 2 suitcases and hit Interstate 95, the road stretching out like a blank canvas. The 3-day drive was a blur of gas stations, cheap motels, and playlists to drown out the noise in my head. I paid cash for everything, keeping my old phone tucked in the glove box for emergencies. Patricia texted once, a curt, "Where are you?" I ignored it. Jessica's message followed, but Michael's silence spoke loudest. Their lack of effort confirmed I was doing the right thing. Tidewater was quieter than I'd imagined. A sleepy town with salt air and a main street lined with small shops. I found a rental listing for a weathered, marshfront cottage. Month to month, furnished, available immediately. It wasn't perfect, with creaky floors and a leaky faucet, but it was mine, a space where no one demanded anything of me. I signed the lease as Elaine Parker, using my middle name to mark a fresh start. Not a disguise, just a way to distance myself from the Megan they'd rejected. I set up a freelance marketing website under Elaine Parker, picking up small gigs, logos, social media campaigns, through online platforms. The work wasn't glamorous, but it covered rent and groceries, and every project reminded me I could build something on my own terms. Settling into Tidewater felt like learning to breathe again. I explored the town's rhythm, running along marsh trails to clear my head, my sneakers pounding out the anger and guilt. One morning, I stopped at Saltwater Brew, a cozy cafe where the owner, Maria Thompson, handed me my coffee with a warm smile. New face, ha, she said. Tidewater's good for new beginnings. Her casual kindness caught me off guard, but I just nodded, not ready to share. Slowly, I started to weave myself into the community, not as the daughter who'd failed, but as Elaine, a woman building a life from scratch. The guilt still crept in, whispering that I'd abandoned them, but I pushed it back. They'd pushed me out first. Each day in Tidewater chipped away at the weight I'd carried, replacing it with a flicker of hope, a life where I could finally be enough. Settling into Tidewater, South Carolina, felt like a fresh breath after years of suffocating under my family's expectations in Woodhaven, Kansas. My new life as Elaine Parker, with my weathered marshfront cottage and freelance marketing gigs, was just taking root when the past came clawing back. 3 weeks in, my old phone, buried in a drawer to keep the ghosts at bay, buzzed with a voicemail from my mother, Patricia. Her voice was sharp, laced with accusation. Megan, where are you? This isn't how family behaves. Then came a text from my father, Michael. Your mother's in the hospital. You need to come home. My heart lurched, not from worry, but from the familiar guilt they'd weaponized my whole life. I knew this was no emergency. It was a trap to reel me back. I didn't call back. Instead, I reached out to Stephen Reynolds, my financial lawyer, to check the trust I'd set up for the family's shared accounts. He confirmed the funds were secure, covering Patricia's prescriptions and utilities, but she'd tried pulling $10,000 for emergency medical costs without documentation. The request was denied. I wasn't falling for their games. Days later, the accusations escalated. My phone lit up with a notification from a Woodhaven community Facebook group. Patricia had posted publicly, claiming I'd ruined Jessica's wedding and stolen family funds, painting me as a heartless thief. Michael chimed in the comments. We trusted Megan, and she betrayed us. The lies stung, twisting the knife of their rejection. I'd frozen the accounts to protect them, not to steal. Every penny was accounted for, earmarked for Patricia's medical bills and household costs. My sister, Jessica, stayed silent, but a friend forwarded me her private message. You didn't have to abandon us like this. Her words felt hollow. She'd stood by while our parents erased me, never once defending me during years of their favoritism. Then a local news site ran a short piece quoting Patricia. My daughter left us destitute after ruining her sister's wedding. The irony burned. They'd wished me gone, and now they played victims to save face in our small town. I forwarded the post to Stephen, who drafted a concise statement clarifying the trust's purpose and my contributions. Let them dig their own hole, he said. The truth's on your side. I also contacted Dr. Linda Evans, Patricia's doctor, who emailed me back. Your mother's condition is stable, more emotional than physical. A panic episode, not a heart attack. It confirmed what I had suspected. Patricia was spinning a crisis to manipulate me. I sent a single reply to Dr. Evans. Thank you. The trust covers all legitimate expenses. Please focus on her emotional health. It was short, factual, cutting the strings they'd pulled for years. The accusations kept coming. Patricia's second text, a half-hearted, we need to talk. And Jessica's follow-up, Mom's upset. Please call. Michael's silence was deafening, a final confirmation of where I stood. I deleted their messages, refusing to let their drama pull me back. The weight of their lies could have broken me, but Tidewater was teaching me resilience. One morning at Saltwater Brew, the local cafe, Maria Thompson, the owner, noticed my tension as she slid my coffee across the counter. Family trouble? She asked, her eyes sharp but kind. I gave a half smile, admitting, they're saying I stole from them, trying to guilt me back. Maria leaned forward, her curly hair framing a knowing look. I left a controlling family 2 years ago. They pulled the same stunt. Sob stories, public shaming. Best thing I did was stay gone. Ask yourself, if you go back, what changes? Her words hit like a truth I'd been dodging. Nothing would change. Patricia and Michael would still see me as the problem, Jessica would stay silent, and I'd lose the freedom I'd just found. I thanked Maria, her casual wisdom grounding me. Each day, I leaned into my new life to drown out the noise. I checked the trust portal, seeing Patricia's requests, $3,000 for home repairs, $5,000 for medical emergencies, all denied for lack of proof. The trust had paid her bills, from electricity to prescriptions, proving she wasn't destitute. Their accusations were a desperate grab for sympathy, and I wasn't biting. Running along Tidewater's marsh trails, my sneakers pounding the earth, I let go of the guilt that crept in. I'd spent years defending myself to them, apologizing for mistakes I didn't make, shrinking to fit their mold. No more. I was done proving my worth to people who'd never see it. Jessica's final email came a week later, her subject line hesitant, "I'm sorry." She wrote, "I didn't realize how bad things were for you. Mom and Dad were out of line, but they're struggling now. Please call. We can fix this." I read it twice, searching for something genuine, but it felt like too little, too late. She'd stood silent when they told me to disappear, never challenging their favoritism. Chasing her approval was just another trap. I didn't reply. Setting that boundary wasn't easy. Guilt whispered I'd abandon them. But I reminded myself they'd pushed me out first. My peace wasn't cruelty, it was survival. In Tidewater, I found strength in small moments. Maria invited me to a local book club, where I met people who didn't know the old Megan, the one who'd faded to avoid criticism. I started painting again, picking up brushes I'd abandoned after Patricia called it a waste of time. Each stroke felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. My freelance work as Elaine Parker grew. Clients praised my logo designs and social media campaigns, valuing my skills without the shadow of family expectations. The accusations from Woodhaven still stung, but they couldn't pull me back. I'd vanished to save myself, not to hurt them, and I was building a life where I decided my worth. Standing on my cottage porch, the marsh stretching before me, I felt a quiet peace, not the absence of pain, but the presence of possibility. I wasn't the daughter who'd failed anymore. I was Elaine, writing a new story, one where I was enough. As I stood on my cottage porch in Tidewater, South Carolina, watching the marsh glow under the evening sun, I realized I'd found something I never had in Woodhaven: peace. Leaving my family wasn't about revenge. It was about saving myself. For years, I'd let their rejection define me, shrinking to fit their expectations, but no more. By walking away, I learned that loving yourself sometimes means letting go of those who hurt you, even if they're family. It's not selfish to put your worth first. It's the only way to live authentically. My journey taught me that freedom comes from setting boundaries, from choosing a life where you're enough. If you've ever felt trapped by toxic ties or doubted your value, know this: you deserve to live on your terms. I'm still building my story as Elaine Parker, and I want to hear yours. Drop your experience in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to my channel for more stories of breaking free and finding yourself. Let's inspire each other to live boldly and heal.